What if everything you've been desperately chasing has been running away? Because you're chasing it. Imagine discovering that your greatest obstacle isn't bad luck, other people, or lack of talent, but your own relentless pursuit. The truth you're about to hear could completely change how you approach success, love, and happiness forever. By the end of this video, you'll understand why letting go is not giving up, why true power begins when desperation ends, and why the people who seem to attract everything effortlessly are following a psychological principle that most never recognize until it's too late. If this message is changing the way you see your own life, take a moment to subscribe and join a community of people committed to mastering their minds instead of being controlled by them. Like this video and leave a comment with the words, "I choose peace over pursuit." It may seem like a simple sentence, but writing it is the first step toward changing the way you attract everything you've been searching for. The first trap most people never recognize is that the harder they chase something, the more valuable they make it appear in their own minds. Whether it is love, success, recognition, wealth, or happiness, constant pursuit quietly sends a message to the deepest part of the mind. I do not already possess enough. This hidden belief becomes the foundation of every action. You begin measuring your worth by what remains outside your reach, instead of what already exists within you. Ironically, the more intensely you run after something, the more power you give it over your emotions. Your peace becomes dependent on obtaining it, and your identity slowly becomes tied to an endless race that never truly satisfies. What makes this cycle so dangerous is that it operates beneath conscious awareness. You believe you are acting from ambition or passion, but beneath those noble intentions often lives fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of not being enough, fear that unless you achieve more, earn more, or receive someone else's approval, you will somehow remain incomplete. These unconscious fears shape your decisions without asking for permission. They create anxiety, impatience, and emotional exhaustion. Every setback feels personal because your self-worth has become attached to the outcome. Instead of moving with confidence, you begin reacting with desperation. And desperation has a strange way of pushing opportunities further away. Think about the moments in your life when something important finally arrived. Many people discover that their greatest opportunities appeared not while they were obsessively forcing results, but after they had shifted their attention toward becoming a stronger version of themselves. Relationships often improve after someone stops begging for affection. Career opportunities appear after a person focuses on mastering their skills instead of constantly seeking validation. Confidence grows when you stop comparing your journey to everyone else's. This is not coincidence. It is a reflection of an important psychological truth. Inner stability changes the way you think, behave, communicate, and respond to the world. Others sense this difference even if they cannot explain it. There is also a deeper paradox that few people are willing to accept. Chasing creates tunnel vision. When your entire focus is locked onto one specific outcome, you become blind to countless possibilities surrounding you. You reject unexpected opportunities because they do not match the picture you created in your mind. You overlook meaningful relationships because you are obsessed with one person. You ignore personal growth because all your energy is invested in reaching a destination. Life, however, rarely unfolds according to rigid expectations. It rewards flexibility, awareness, and patience. Sometimes what you desperately wanted was only preparing you for something far greater that you could not yet imagine. This is why the real transformation begins when you stop asking, "How do I get it?" and start asking, "Who must I become?" That single shift changes everything. Instead of chasing approval, you build character. Instead of chasing success, you develop competence. Instead of chasing love, you cultivate emotional maturity. Instead of chasing happiness, you create inner peace. The remarkable truth is that when you become someone who no longer depends on external validation to feel complete, you naturally attract healthier relationships, better opportunities, and deeper fulfillment. The goal is not to stop caring about your dreams. The goal is to stop believing that your worth depends on catching them. Only then do you become truly free, and paradoxically, it is often at that moment that the things you once chased begin moving toward you. The moment you release desperation, something remarkable begins to change. Not necessarily in the outside world at first, but within yourself. Most people believe detachment means becoming cold, indifferent, or giving up on their dreams. In reality, true detachment is something entirely different. It is the ability to pursue a meaningful life without allowing the outcome to control your emotional state. You still care, you still work, you still hope. But your peace no longer rises and falls with every success or failure. This quiet emotional freedom creates a strength that others can feel, even if they cannot explain why. Desperation has a way of narrowing the mind. When you become obsessed with a single result, every delay feels like rejection, every obstacle feels like proof that life is against you, and every unanswered message or missed opportunity becomes a personal wound. Your thoughts begin revolving around what is missing rather than what is growing. This constant mental tension clouds judgment and weakens confidence. Ironically, the harder you grip what you fear losing, the more exhausted you become. The mind was never designed to live in a permanent state of pursuit. It needs space to breathe, reflect, and trust the unfolding of life. There is an invisible shift that occurs when you let go of the need to control every outcome. Your attention returns to the present moment, instead of constantly projecting into an uncertain future. You begin investing your energy in things you can actually influence: your habits, your character, your skills, your health, and your mindset. This is where genuine confidence is born. Confidence does not come from guarantees that everything will work out. It comes from knowing that regardless of what happens, you possess the inner strength to adapt. That realization dissolves fear because your security no longer depends on external circumstances. People are naturally drawn toward those who carry this quiet sense of stability. It is not because they are pretending to be mysterious or playing psychological games. It is because emotional balance creates a sense of safety and authenticity. Someone who is not constantly seeking approval listens more deeply, speaks more honestly, and acts with greater clarity. They no longer chase attention because they are no longer trying to fill an inner emptiness. Instead, they radiate a calm confidence that makes others curious. Opportunities often appear around people like this because they respond wisely rather than reacting impulsively. They become a steady presence in a world filled with emotional chaos. This is the hidden power of detachment. It is not the absence of desire, but the absence of fear. It is the quiet understanding that what truly belongs in your life will never require you to abandon your dignity, your self-respect, or your inner peace. When you stop forcing life to move according to your timetable, you begin noticing possibilities that anxiety once concealed. Doors open that you never saw before. Relationships become healthier because they are built on mutual respect instead of emotional dependence. Success becomes more meaningful because it grows from purpose rather than panic. The greatest paradox is that the moment you stop chasing life with desperation is often the very moment life begins moving toward you. Most people believe the greatest obstacles in life exist outside of them. They blame difficult people, bad timing, unfair circumstances, or simple bad luck. Yet the most powerful barriers are often invisible, hidden deep beneath conscious awareness. The mind quietly stores old fears, painful memories, limiting beliefs, and emotional wounds that continue shaping your behavior long after the original events have passed. You may consciously tell yourself that you deserve love, success, or happiness, but if a deeper part of your mind still believes you are unworthy, your actions will unknowingly reflect that belief. This inner conflict creates resistance that no amount of external effort can overcome until it is brought into awareness. This hidden resistance appears in subtle ways. You may constantly overthink every decision because part of you fears making a mistake. You may cling desperately to relationships because you secretly fear abandonment. You may work endlessly without feeling satisfied because you believe your value depends entirely on achievement. These patterns often feel normal because they have become familiar. But familiarity is not the same as truth. The unconscious mind repeats what it knows, even when those patterns produce suffering. Without realizing it, you begin recreating the very situations you desperately want to escape, convincing yourself that life is simply unfair instead of recognizing the deeper forces at work within you. One of the greatest illusions is believing that more effort will solve an inner problem. If insecurity is driving your actions, chasing harder rarely creates peace. Instead, it strengthens the insecurity because every action confirms the hidden belief that you must keep proving yourself. Imagine trying to fill a cup that has a crack at the bottom. No matter how much water you pour into it, it never feels full. In the same way, external achievements cannot permanently satisfy an internal belief of inadequacy. The problem is not the amount of success, love, or recognition you receive. The problem is the unseen belief that whispers, "It will never be enough." Real transformation begins when you become curious about your own patterns instead of judging them. Ask yourself why certain situations trigger intense fear. Why does rejection feel unbearable? Why do you seek approval from people who rarely appreciate you? Why does silence make you anxious? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are invitations to discover the parts of yourself that have been quietly directing your life from the shadows. When hidden fears are brought into conscious awareness, they begin to lose their control. You stop reacting automatically and start choosing your responses with greater wisdom and emotional clarity. This is why lasting change is always an inside-out process. You cannot force the world to treat you differently, while the deepest parts of your mind continue expecting disappointment. As your unconscious fears gradually lose their grip, your behavior naturally changes. You speak with greater confidence because you are no longer terrified of rejection. You form healthier relationships because you no longer seek someone else to complete you. You pursue opportunities with courage because failure no longer defines your identity. The world may appear unchanged, yet your experience of it becomes completely different. The greatest victory is not conquering life itself. It is recognizing and transforming the invisible forces within you that were quietly standing in your own way. The greatest shift in life happens when you stop seeing yourself as someone who must constantly hunt for opportunities and begin becoming the kind of person opportunities naturally seek. Most people spend years believing that success belongs to those who chase the hardest, speak the loudest, or demand the most attention. Yet if you look closely at people who possess lasting influence, genuine respect, and meaningful relationships, you will notice something different. They are rarely consumed by the need to prove themselves. Instead, they have invested so deeply in developing their character, skills, and emotional stability that their presence alone creates value. They have transformed themselves into magnets rather than hunters. A magnet does not force anything to come closer. It simply becomes what it is meant to be, and what belongs within its field naturally responds. Human beings operate in a surprisingly similar way. When your confidence depends on external validation, every interaction becomes a silent request for approval. People can sense this emotional need even when it is never spoken aloud. But when your self-worth is rooted in your own principles, discipline, and inner peace, your energy changes. You listen without desperation, speak without fear, and walk away from situations that no longer honor your values. This quiet confidence is far more powerful than endless persuasion because it cannot be manufactured. It is earned through inner growth. Consider how relationships change when you stop trying to convince others to choose you. Instead of chasing affection, you become someone who offers honesty, kindness, emotional maturity, and self-respect. Suddenly, your decisions are no longer driven by fear of losing people, but by the desire to build connections based on mutual respect. The same principle applies to success. Instead of obsessing over recognition, you focus on mastering your craft. Instead of demanding immediate rewards, you become committed to continuous improvement. Over time, your competence speaks louder than your words ever could. People begin trusting you not because you begged for attention, but because your actions consistently reflected excellence. This transformation also changes the way you respond to rejection. Hunters often see rejection as failure because their identity depends on capturing the prize. Magnets understand something entirely different. They recognize that not every opportunity, relationship, or path is meant to remain in their lives. Rejection becomes information rather than humiliation. It redirects rather than destroys. This perspective protects your peace because you no longer waste energy forcing doors that refuse to open. Instead, you continue strengthening yourself, trusting that the opportunities aligned with your growth will eventually recognize your value. Patience replaces panic, and purpose replaces pressure. The remarkable truth is that becoming a magnet is not about attracting everything. It is about becoming someone capable of receiving what truly belongs to you. As you cultivate integrity, emotional resilience, wisdom, and genuine self-respect, your life begins to change in subtle but profound ways. The right people feel comfortable around you because you no longer radiate insecurity. Better opportunities appear because your preparation meets the moment. Challenges become teachers rather than enemies because your identity is no longer fragile. In the end, the world responds differently, not because it suddenly became fairer, but because you became stronger. The person who once chased everything discovers that the greatest power was never in running after life. It was in becoming the kind of person life naturally moves toward. There is a kind of strength that the modern world rarely celebrates. It is not loud, impatient, or constantly demanding results. It is the quiet strength of silence, patience, and inner transformation. Most people mistake waiting for weakness because they associate movement with progress and stillness with failure. But not every pause is a setback. Sometimes life slows you down because it is preparing you in ways that endless activity never could. A seed buried beneath the earth appears inactive, yet beneath the surface it is developing the roots that will one day support a towering tree. In much the same way, your greatest transformation often takes place during the seasons when nothing seems to be happening. Silence is especially powerful because it forces you to meet yourself without distraction. When the noise of constant validation, endless comparisons, and relentless pursuit fades away, you begin hearing thoughts that were previously buried beneath the chaos. You notice your fears, your desires, your unresolved wounds, and your hidden strengths. This process can be uncomfortable because it removes the excuses that once kept you occupied. Yet it is precisely within this silence that genuine clarity is born. You stop reacting to every opinion, every criticism, and every temporary emotion. Instead, you begin responding from a place of deeper understanding and emotional balance. Patience is often misunderstood as passive waiting, but true patience is an active discipline. It means continuing to improve yourself even when the results have not yet appeared. It is choosing consistency over instant gratification. It is reading another book, practicing another skill, strengthening your character, and refining your habits while the outside world sees no immediate reward. Many people abandon their dreams because they mistake delayed success for permanent failure. They forget that meaningful achievements rarely appear overnight. Just as nature follows its own seasons, every worthwhile transformation unfolds according to a rhythm that cannot be rushed without weakening its foundation. Inner transformation quietly changes everything because it reshapes the person experiencing life rather than simply changing external circumstances. The world may look exactly the same, but your perception of it becomes entirely different. Situations that once filled you with anxiety now become opportunities for growth. Rejection no longer destroys your confidence because your identity is no longer built upon other people's opinions. Uncertainty becomes less frightening because you have learned to trust your ability to adapt. The strongest people are not those who never face storms, but those who have developed an inner calm that cannot be shaken by every passing wind. This is why silence, patience, and inner transformation are inseparable. Silence reveals who you truly are. Patience gives that discovery time to mature. Transformation turns those lessons into a new way of living. When these three qualities begin working together, you stop forcing life to happen according to your schedule. You continue moving forward with purpose, but without panic. You no longer confuse urgency with importance or speed with progress. And then, almost unexpectedly, the things you once believed required endless chasing begin arriving naturally. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you became wiser, stronger, and ready to receive what your former self could never have sustained. One of the greatest misconceptions about success, love, and fulfillment is the belief that life rewards those who need something the most. In reality, life consistently favors those who are prepared to receive it. There is a profound difference between neediness and readiness. Neediness is driven by fear. It whispers that you cannot be happy until someone chooses you, until you earn more money, or until the world finally recognizes your worth. Readiness, on the other hand, is built on quiet confidence. It understands that while goals are important, your identity does not depend on reaching them. You pursue your dreams with determination, but you refuse